Hello, everybody. It's Walter, your favorite historian, educator, professor, social studies extraordinaire, and blue-collar scholar. Today's date is October 13th, 2025, and this video is entitled America's Parliamentary President. Now, we are all familiar with how we select the U.S. president today by way of the Electoral College, but it did not necessarily have to be that way. In fact, it could have been quite the opposite. So during the Constitutional Convention of 1787, Delegate James Madison of Virginia presented a 19-point resolution Virginia plan, which contained the original and full basis of discussion for how to amend the Articles of Confederation, which was the whole purpose of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, not to create a whole new constitution. That's just something that happened as a result thereof. Now, the Articles of Confederation was, of course, our first national government that was wholly ineffective in so many ways. All right. Now, resolution number 9 of the Virginia Plan would have created a national executive, which was essentially quasi-parliamentary in nature. While we're all familiar, like I said, with the way we pick our president via the Electoral College, okay, this president under Madison's Virginia Plan would have been selected by the national legislature. Okay, Congress, each election cycle. So let's read resolution number 9, and it reads as follows. Resolved that a national executive be instituted to consist of a single person to be chosen by the national legislature for the term of 7 years, with power to carry into execution the national laws, to appoint to offices in cases not otherwise provided for, to be ineligible to a second time, and to be removable on impeachment and conviction of malpractice or neglect of duty, to receive a fixed stipend by which he may be compensated for the devotion of his time to public service, to be paid out of the national treasury. Okay? So that is resolution number 9 of James Madison's Virginia Plan, presented to the Constitutional Convention in May of 1787. Thus, Madison's president would be a unitary executive that we're all familiar with, but would be chosen by a national legislature for a non-renewable term of 7 years. That said, there are many ways we could go with this, and undoubtedly Madison wrote this as a mere blueprint for an executive role, which would, of course, be hotly debated on at the convention itself. So here it is important to understand context. It's almost certain that his proposal for the national executive to be chosen in this format from Congress came from the existing way that 8 of the 13 states, including his own Virginia, chose their governor at the time. This was by a joint ballot of both houses of the state legislature. Thus, whichever party or faction controlled the legislature would put forth candidates for governor from individuals who were already serving in the legislature, okay, obviously, and the winner would become governor. At that point, the individual chosen to become governor would resign their seat in the legislature and become a full-time governor. This is obviously quasi-parliamentary, whereby the executive is born from the legislature, but that person chosen does not remain a member of the legislature as it would be in a purely parliamentary system. Madison's executive is provided independence by giving them full executive power and limiting them to a single non-renewable term in office. So while he does not directly state that the executive will be a full-time president and not remain a member of the legislature as well, it's implied more or less by his emphasis on 3 separate branches of government, executive, legislative, and judicial, which are found in other resolutions in the Virginia Plan, as well as a lack of a purely parliamentary system existing anywhere else in America at this point. Okay, anything less than that would have constituted a completely parliamentary system in America, something that would have met fierce opposition from most of the delegates in attendance at Philadelphia in 1787. Okay, so obviously Madison's individual in his proposal, once chosen to be president by both houses of Congress, he's coming from Congress. Once he's elected president from Congress, he'd almost certainly have to resign his seat there to become a full-time president. Okay, thus, for the sake of argument, had this provision been adopted as written by Madison, with the executive being chosen by the legislature, the executive would have, beyond all doubt, been quite quasi-parliamentary in its origins, okay, with the controlling party in Congress being able to dominate the presidency for unforeseen periods of time. Should we have divided government like we do right now in this country, with one party controlling one house and the other party controlling the other, a compromise candidate would likely have been chosen, which under normal circumstances is not a terribly difficult thing to do. But in today's modern political climate, it seems like that would be almost impossible, okay, and thus unworkable in the modern era. So I am very glad that Madison's original proposal for how the President of the United States would be selected and chosen ultimately did not come to pass, and that the convention ultimately decided that the president would not be naturally born directly from the members of Congress and chosen from the members of Congress directly, but instead could literally be any Tom, Dick, or Harry in the United States, but obviously someone from typically the elite class, and that individual will be chosen by a group of electors from each state, something that has, of course, evolved into our modern day structure of an electoral college, where electors are typically chosen by the voters of the state. Okay. Wasn't always that way. Most of the time in the early part of the country, electors were chosen by the state legislatures, but we have liberalized the institution considerably, whereby the electors are typically chosen by the voters in the states. And of course, the state's electoral votes, with most states going along with the winner-take-all system. Whoever wins the state's popular vote wins all of their electoral votes, making the system as democratic as we can, while we still must live with the electoral college. Okay, so that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the presidency almost may have worked out, with the president being chosen by Congress once every 7 years, with the president coming directly from Congress, the ranks of Congress being chosen by that body, likely by a joint ballot of both houses, as it was done to pick the governor in 8 states at that time. The people had no role in it. There would have been no electoral college. The president's coming right from Congress, chosen by that body. Okay, so whatever party dominated Congress would control the presidency. And effectively, the presidency, to me, would have been essentially at the mercy of Congress, far more than you could ever imagine in today's world. Okay, there would have been a very controlled executive in this country, and it would have been very corruptible. If you think it's bad now, I think that type of presidency, had it been chosen directly from the way Madison had originally written it in Article 9, the executive would not have had as much independence as one may think. Okay, so I'm glad we ultimately have the system that we have, for better or for worse. I would like to see national popular vote be the way we choose the president, and with the abolition of the electoral college. But knowing that, we just understand it could have been far worse, with the president being chosen directly from Congress, by Congress itself. Okay, with no input from the voters whatsoever. All right, very quasi-parliamentary in nature, which is essentially not the American way. All right, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on the matter. Please leave them in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to engage in peaceful civil discussion. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to exciting and robust and spirited debate with you all on the merits of Madison's proposal. So please take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, and I will talk to you at the next video. Professor Shelton, the Blue Collar Scholar, out.